Welcome to Living Unitedly International's next video. Today we are going to talk on the topic. It's a very burning issue that we face in the society, in every family, that is about domestic violence. We'll discuss, again we have our expert advocate Mr. Amol Sutrale, who will throw light on as such what is domestic violence, what is the scope of domestic violence, what are the reasons for domestic violence, and their laws, use, misuse on that. So, Amol, could you please highlight domestic violence, as popularly known in Hindi as Gharelu Hinsa?
Gharelu Hinsa. Now, the word itself, Hinsa, violence. Now, what is violence? Violence is any act which is against a human body where there is any physical abuse, verbal abuse, mental harassment of any kind. Now in India, after many years of independence, the government thought it proper to introduce the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. This act was introduced in 2005 and it came in effect from 26th of October 2006. Now, though this is an old barrack, we have to first understand what is the Act itself, what are the statements and objects in the Act. First, let me update all our viewers that as per the Constitution of India, no Act in India can be against the principles laid out in the various articles of the Constitution, namely Article 14, 15 and 21. Article 14 is an article which ensures a right to equality. Today we will discuss here whether our DV Act is anywhere near to its claim. The statements of objects and reasons given in the very first page of this barrack has a mention of Vienna Accord of 1994 and Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action 1995, the United Nations Committee on Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in its General Recommendation of 1989 has recommended that state parties should act to protect women against violence of any kind, especially that occurring within the family. Now believe me, in this entire book, this is the only place where the word family appears. Very strange. There is a mention of Vienna Accord, there is mention of Beijing Declaration, there is a mention of Convention of Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and surprisingly it does not address a simple fact that in India there are various religions, various customs, various traditions, and it acknowledges the fact that this Vienna Accord and Beijing Declaration, which are nowhere connected to the situation in India, are their source of inspiration to make this act.
So it has come from outside India. The law that has been enacted in India has originated from outside India.
Surprisingly, it states the phenomena of domestic violence is widely prevalent but has remained largely invisible in the public domain. Presently, where a woman is subjected to cruelty by her husband or relatives, it is an offence under section 498A of the Indian Penal Code. The civil law does not, however, address this phenomena in its entirety. I absolutely disagree with this. When the statement of objects and reason is so wrong, how good the act can be? Phenomena of domestic violence is invisible in public domain. I think this is from a stone age. Today we are in the age of media,
where the population is so densely populated.
A cat climbs up a tree and can't come down is a media subject, and the media hampers itself to go and take that news. Can domestic violence be out of public domain?
I mean, this is something is surprising. Absolutely, as you have pointed, we are not aware of this. Domestic violence, especially in city, urban areas where people are staying in such cramped places, it goes unnoticed. It is not possible. It has become a part and parcel of the
The
society.
bigger question here is, my friends, why is this domestic violence in the first place?
Is we would like to know what are the causes actually, what really causes this domestic violence, and how law addresses this. Do they only deal with domestic violence that has occurred, or do they also go into the depth what were the causes of it?
They don't go. Strangely enough, the law doesn't want to dwell into the question of why this domestic violence occurs in the first place. See, the root cause of any problem has to be first eliminated, and then there have to be preventive measures for any law to be successful, effective. Here what we find is, there is an act which suggests that this is the offence, this is the manner in which the offence must have taken place, put that person behind the bar, punish him, and then the law will take its course, and maybe he may be reformed. Any law has to be reformative first. It has to be preventive.
I like to ask, sir, I mean, as a layman, I am not from the legal fraternity, how would you define an act of violence in terms of domestic violence? Is suppose there is a dispute between two individuals. Now the law is, right now what I have heard from you is talking about being from the point of view of a woman point of view. Now, what is the extent if the husband slaps his wife? At the very instance that there is a small dispute between them, does that amount to domestic violence? Can she take her husband to the court and demand something that the provisions of the acts are?
Mr. Mehta, you are going a step ahead. Slapping is a step ahead. I'll read out what the act. Because once the domestic
violence is something good, should be physical in nature.
It defines the expression domestic violence to include actual abuse, not only actual abuse, or threat, or abuse that is physical, sexual, verbal, emotional, or economic, harassment by way of unlawful dowry demands to the woman or her relatives would also be covered under this definition. See, we have always been taught there cannot be laws having similar remedies. Where is the necessity of a domestic violence act to cover dowry harassment when, first of all, there is Dowry Prohibition Act, then there is Section 498 of the IPC, and then you introduce one more act as if the two acts are absolutely non-functional. Can the government give a single reason why, when there is a Prohibition of Dowry Act and when there is already Section 498A, what was the need of this act to cover dowry threats? Are you yourself saying that our acts are ineffective?
I would just like to imagine a situation where we are talking about domestic violence. Now, as you have pointed out just now, even a threat or an abuse. Now, remembering my school days where we were in school, and I was very fortunate to have a wonderful school atmosphere where our principal was very strict, and it really helped me to shape my career. And I'm so proud that it's not only me, my colleagues, my school fellows are they are well settled across the globe. And they are all thankful to our principal, to our teachers, and I would like to confess, yes, we were being threatened by our teachers at many occasions. Our principal, when we were wrong, sometimes had even slapped us to bring us back to something that we needed to correct on. Now, in a situation, it is, I would consider my family also as like like a school, where I have learned so much from my parents also. And there was an instance when I was not right, my father had to slap me, bring back to my discipline. Now, in a situation, where in a family, every individual is a component, even the husband, the wife, the child. why a woman is being now treated differently than the other component of the family. Suppose there is an instance where the mother is like, she has lost her temper, she is not able to control, she is beating the child. It's a normal instance. Now, as per the act, now I see there is no remedy for the father who is the responsible person.
No remedy for men whatsoever.
How does he control this situation?
Effectively, under this act, a wife, a woman, is presumed to be above all mistakes. Automatically, it gives an alibi to a woman to do as she pleases with the husband, his parents, his relatives, her in-laws, anybody.
So, doesn't it make the act vulnerable to misuse in that case?
This is the most misused act in the world. In my entire career, I have found only one or two instances of genuine cases under this act. I had a case of a mother who was thrown out by her sons, even when the premises in which she was staying belonged to her. That is domestic violence. That is an actual instance. Now what is happening is, as you said, if the wife is abusive, if the wife is not understanding, caring enough, or is beating the child, if the husband slaps her, she can simply go lodge a complaint and say that my husband slapped me.
And that amounts to domestic violence.
That amounts
and
to
in that the child is not, I've seen a lot of police vans where they are writing for women child protection. So where is this component child? Is it not being covered in the act?
Child is absolutely neglected in this act. Where is the main issue of welfare of the family? That issue is absolutely missing from this act. Welfare of the entire family and the unity of the family ought to have been the prime objective of this act.
So can we say that this is again one of those anti-family law like 498 and another addition to the bag?
I think this law is one of the grossest laws in India, and it should be struck down immediately, or at least it should be given to people who are not, pro-man or pro-woman or pro-family. Because an act which is so discriminative against men cannot handle the situation properly, because any man who is a self-respecting man in India, if his wife goes to a police station and files a normal complaint against him, that complaint is instigated further by the officer, and he says, now you do one thing, you file your case under Domestic Violence Act and your husband will come to senses. That officer or any relative who instigates her doesn't realize that the end of such a complaint is bound to be divorce. There can be no other end to it. Because once in India especially, a wife goes to the police station and brings all her family members, that is her husband and her in-laws, into the police station, even for interrogation, that breaks that fabric. So now, I want to point out a very, very interesting passage. At point number 4, the bill inter alia seeks to provide the following. It covers those women who are or have been in a relationship with the abuser, where both parties have lived together in a shared household and are related by consanguinity, that is by birth, marriage, or through a relationship in the nature of marriage or adoption. Now, can any act, especially in a country which adheres itself to so much to traditions, say that through a relationship in the nature of marriage? What does that mean? It amounts to giving sanctity to a couple who are staying in a live-in relationship.
Which is a very popular concept nowadays. people, youngsters are, they want to choose live-in relationships than to marriages. So
just tell me, how many young people today want to marry? Today, very few people who are educated and who actually understand what are laws, they want to marry. The reason is this. Earlier, there used to be a sense of responsibility in marriage. Now, marriage has become a kind of a burden. Why is it so? Why should marriage be a burden? When you write down your marriage invitation card, when you prepare it, nobody even presumes that it would end in a divorce. You celebrate in a big fashion. Indian weddings are so popular all over the world. People from abroad, they come to India and celebrate their wedding.
I know a French couple who recently got married in Jaipur. Okay, coming back to again on domestic violence, a thing crosses my mind when I see this. What is the scope of domestic violence? Like I know of place where there is somebody, a lady staying in the society, and she has a habit of every morning she keeps shouting on things. Maybe she's sometimes not happy with her maid, or there is an issue with the child, and the entire society is being disturbed. She shouts aloud, and we all can hear, and now we are so helpless as being neighbors. We can't do anything about it, and we have to live with it. I think her husband has we all feel that a poor fellow, what to do about it. Like he has got used to it, but what is happening is it is giving a very bad impression on the children staying in the society. They also think that just getting neighbors are disturbed, and there is no kind of solution to a situation, but actually we feel that yes, there is a kind of, as you said, abuse or even noise and threatening and all these things are going on. So is this law also covers the purview of people who are suffering, or it is just that again coming back to a woman who will complain and then only she will be addressed?
The law of torts is taught in all law schools. However, there are no laws addressing those torts today in India, and many of the new law entrants who are studying law, they don't have this Protection of Domestic Violence Act in their curriculum. So I am very surprised actually what kind of an act is created, and as you rightly said, where a woman is harassing a man or the public in general, there is no law right now which any man can take recourse to say that this is too much, now I can't take the continuous verbal assault.
I mean, doesn't it also falls under human rights? There is some fundamental rights as being a human, whether you are man or a woman, it is secondary.
You are right. See, human rights are for larger issues generally. Wherever the word human rights comes into process, it's normally anything related to abuse by the government or by the police towards anybody. But what right now is happening is, if you are a man and if your wife is, say, very, very verbal and continuously talks and has a very harsh voice,
the only one way is to be human.
She raises your blood pressure in a moment. In an instant, your blood pressure is elevated. You can't do much. You can't do anything against her, except for praying to the God that maybe she gets some allergy and she stops ranting.
There are so many jokes like before marriage she is Chandramukhi, and then after at the time of marriage Surajmukhi, and then
finally Jwalamukhi.
It has been taken lightly, but when it becomes a serious affair, that Jwalamukhi can really engulf the entire family. Secondly, I would like to know that when India is one of the emerging superpowers in the world, when we are enacting laws, being a very responsible country, we are like in an age where India is a force to reckon with. Do other countries also have similar laws?
That's a very, very important question, whether other countries are having a law like Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act. I don't think so, because no other country can bear up with such an unjust law. Very simply, how can the men of other country tolerate an act which totally cuts off their limbs, their tongue? They can't say anything against what the wife has said. Her word is believed by the courts as a gospel of truth. when
But we
woman
see
says,
in United States, on different forums, in Europe also, there are a lot of frustration among the Western community that they also have very gender biased laws, that in terms of men did not have any rights when it comes to a dispute between a man and a woman. The entire episode is lopsided, one-sided. So when it comes to domestic violence, how do the other countries are dealing with this situation?
see, in other countries, there is a slight difference, except in India where urban areas women are liberated and they are independent and they are having their own thinking. In rural India, this problem is there, domestic violence is there, women are being abused, there are physical violences occurring. However, having said that, the woman in rural India may not be actually using this act at all. See, they are so downtrodden that they can't come up to the level of going to the police station and actually filing a complaint against their husbands. Their traditions, their
accessibility is very poor.
No, not only in India, there is too much of sanskar, and that sanskar is what keeps a family united in the first place. So a sanskari wife or a wife who has a lot of respect for traditions in the first place would never go to the police station and file a complaint against her in-laws. But what is happening in urban areas is, women, they actively go ahead, file a case against the husband and the in-laws. She doesn't bother, I am working. She says, I am working, I am earning more than my husband, why do I care? And ultimately what happens is, once she is in the police station, the police, they are not sensitized to the level of understanding the delicate relations between a husband and wife or the family.
Now let us try to understand what happens when the woman approaches. What could be the kind of course, punishment in terms of this domestic violence act? It can lead to what extent?
It can lead to a great extent, where there are various sections in the act. Especially section 12 is the major section in this, which empowers a woman to file application before a magistrate, and after filing the application for domestic violence, she can take recourse to various orders, out of which one is protection orders. Now she can demand from the magistrate that in view of the offence committed under Domestic Violence Act, alleged offence, she can say, okay, now I want protection officer to protect me, and in the husband or any of his relative can be, sort of an injunction can be given against him from talking to her, from meeting her, from also meeting the children. See, this is a very new act, and people don't realize the complications involved in this. Entering the place of employment of the aggrieved person, or if the person aggrieved is a child, its school or any other place frequented by the aggrieved person. Attempting to communicate in any form whatsoever with the aggrieved person, including personal, oral or written or electronic or telephonic contact. So in a way, the Act wants to cut off any kind of conciliation between both of them.
Right. I mean, the relationship is, there is no room, no scope, there is no space provided for solution to the issue, or it will be just like, okay, the man has to stay. And now what happens? How will the women survive? About her survival, does she has entitled to maintenance or something?
Yeah, she is entitled to maintenance under the Act. Now there are residence orders which she can take recourse to, and then there are maintenance orders, monetary reliefs under section 20. But now I will first come back to the protection orders, where she has a right to ask the magistrate to pass an order where the husband can be restrained from alienating any assets, operating bank lockers or bank accounts used or held or enjoyed by both parties jointly by the aggrieved person and the respondent, or singly by the respondent, including her stridhan or any other property held either jointly by the parties or separately by them without the leave of the magistrate. Which means without the specific leave of the magistrate, you can't operate your own account, you can't open your own locker, right? If your entire business is dependent on operation of bank accounts, your business is freezed. This act empowers the woman to go to the magistrate and say, okay, now I am harassed, please shut down the business of my husband. Then it not only respondent not only includes the husband but also any of the members of the family. See the beauty of DV Act. Under Family Court Act, a wife can file a petition against the husband, or a husband can file a petition against the wife at the most for any dispute. Under DV Act, a wife is given a prerogative to file number of cases against all the members of the family of the matrimonial home. So
Does
it's
it
very
look like
shocking.
it's like a prejudice law against the whole idea of the family? Like I mean, somewhere there is a inherent feeling that family is less important and something that is what is written in the law, which is somehow it is more important. Now coming back to again domestic violence, we were talking about domestic violence that is occurring. People are beating, men are beating women, and women are being exploited. How different it is in today's urban world compared to the rural world, where again we are coming back to the same issue, where we are talking about gender equality. The man has to work, the woman is working, both are working, they are running their show. So when it comes to maintenance, is the woman being expected that by default they do not work, or they need not be a working partner? They just have to be a claiming partner. Okay, while filing the DV Act, is there a law that investigates whether this woman is eligible to be able to be on her own feet? She can work, or also she needs to be a part of the employment exchange where she enrolls herself and then she is not getting any job, or just because she being a woman, being married, doesn't it discriminates women gender? I mean, this law doesn't it talks that women are weaker sex and it's not an equal sex? So when there is an inherent thing that is coming out of this law is men are superior to women, women are a weaker sex, they are not equal to men, so all the rights need to be given to women. So are we not, it's a discriminative law in itself?
The answer to your question is yes, it is absolutely discriminatory. However, when you asked me whether there is any recourse for any man or whether a man can have any say on this issue, absolutely no. The answer is no. A man has no say in any place. Now, interestingly, what it says is this clause provides that the magistrate may, after giving the aggrieved person is the wife and the respondent can be anybody, an opportunity of being heard, and on being prima facie satisfied that domestic violence has taken place or is likely to take place, may pass a protection order in favor of the aggrieved person. Now, pausing here for a minute, the word prima facie satisfied. Why is this word prima facie satisfied here? Shouldn't it be absolutely sure instead of the word prima
When the
facie?
spirit of the law is let 100 criminals be free, but one innocent should not be punished.
Yes. So here is absolutely opposite. Let 100 innocent men be sacrificed at the cost of one lying woman. That is the idea behind this. It is absolutely unbelievable that the word prima facie is here. It has to be absolutely sure. The magistrate has to take into consideration whether an act had been committed or not. Tomorrow, does anybody pick you up from the street just because somebody is pointing finger at you, this man murdered somebody? Is it possible? This act gives that to the woman. Tomorrow she may say, my husband tried to rape me. You have no other choice. The magistrate will simply say, why would a woman come to me and say my husband tried to rape me? whatever she has to say, I think she is saying it correctly. I can't presume her to be wrong. That is prima facie.
I mean, this is when we talk about families. Families are a bonding which is very much emotional and a lot of psychological in nature. Other than other relationship where there are business crimes, where there is a robber who goes to the place, he robs. There is an intention for money. But family is governed with lot of. There is no emotion between a robber and the place is robbing, a criminal. But within the family, there is lot of emotional and psychological aspects. Is the law has got any provision to understand whether maybe the woman is suffering from a psychological disorder, whether she is in the normal state of mind, whether before filing this application she has to undergo a medical report where it is certified this woman is absolutely healthy and
medically.
Because there can be an instance, and in many families, because of nowadays stress has become such a common part of our society, people are stressed and they don't know what they are doing. Sometimes they just come out with stories which they start believing into it. There was an instance which we saw I think a couple of years back. There was a boy who had seen an English movie and he was imitating the accent of an American, and then in media it was published that he is the reincarnation of Albert Einstein or something like that, and his mind was completely obsessed or hallucinated, whatever, by the fact that he is a rebirth of Albert Einstein. And after a few days it was discovered that it was because
he watched
of the influence of the movie. What happens tomorrow, a family in which a woman or a person is hallucinated and it expresses, she comes and she files a case in the DV, will the innocent family be punished?
The act presumes the husband to be an enemy of the wife. Very surprisingly, husband and his relatives are enemies of the wife.
So I'll just like to interrupt. We'll take a short break and we'll come back. Welcome back. Now let us try to understand that when we are talking about domestic violence, when the case has to be registered, what could be the prerequisite? Because there can be an instance, as what I understand now, to seek maintenance. What happens if the woman is already working, she has a very good job, she is working, she is qualified, she is MBA, she is already working. Can she seek maintenance under that situation?
See, now let me throw some light on this. Nowadays women are using this act, DV Act, to take revenge from their husbands. What happens is, suppose say a husband is tired of the nuisance of his wife, is totally out of range, and he files for a divorce petition. How does the woman get back to him? She doesn't want to only defend her case, she wants an upper edge, she wants to go ahead and teach him a lesson. So how does she do that? First she had 498 IPC, now she has this new instrument called DV Act. I have seen many instances where good marriages are broken only because the woman goes to a lawyer and the lawyer suggests to her, okay, you do one thing, your husband has filed divorce against you, we will file a case under DV Act against him. He has absolutely no wings or no say under a DV Act, and ultimately when you pressurize him to the extent that he bows down, he will have to give you divorce, pay you a very huge alimony, and in the end don't think about your children.
But don't you think this is like a kind of a commercialization, like an industry that is now thriving, breaking marriages and breaking families?
Few years back, in magistrate court especially, the advocate, they used to sit idle for the entire day, because whatever cases that arise from petty disputes, they used to get over in the morning session. Now these magistrate courts have become akin like family courts. You see entire families of people sitting in the courtroom alongside with people who have been caught for petty offences, a thief, a robber. You understand? People from good
It's
families.
like, creating. That's what I'm telling you. It has become an
The
industry.
girl, the girl, her parents, the boy, his parents and family are all sitting in the same court with robbers, thieves, you understand,
Right.
dacoits, murderers, and for what? Does the law consider a husband and his family in the same group of people as the robbers, murderers, thieves? It is absolutely
And
unbecoming.
in the process, the kind of time now when the husband starts visiting the courts all the time, while he comes to twice or thrice in the month, his job is going to suffer. We come to know that a lot of people have lost their jobs
Yes,
because of
interesting point is,
visitation to the.
see the kind of orders that are passed by magistrates. If a husband loses a battle in DV Act, the order says that the accused pleaded not guilty, order accused convicted. Because it is a magistrate court, see the difference in a civil court is a petition is decree granted or petition allowed, decree to be drawn accordingly. That's it. It doesn't say whether the person is guilty or not guilty or whatever. Here, the order comes as accused convicted. So, what is the meaning of convicted?
It's a crime. And
You have committed a crime, and after the trial, you are convicted. What is the immediate effect of that word convicted? Is many companies are having policies that if their employee is convicted in any criminal offence, they have to remove him.
It's like a double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword. See, what happens is the magistrate grants the wife that the husband should pay say 10,000 or 50,000 whatever per month as maintenance to her, and then convicts him. He loses his job, and then there are recovery proceedings filed by the wife stating that I don't know, he may work, beg, borrow or steal.
Again become another crime.
I want money.
Okay.
I don't bother how he arranges that money, I want the money. So this is an absolutely, I can say, a draconian law.
Not only endangers the family culture, but it's putting a threat to the society as well, because now the children, now which is a neglected part of this entire scenario, it's very difficult, or I think it might be a very exceptional case where these kids will grow up to become a responsible citizen.
They won't. See, every kid who from the beginning of his childhood sees his parents and their relations simmering, their parents are fighting. There are many instances with such children, they can't actually visualize how their own life will be. And they think that if my parents are doing this, this has to be a way of life. Today many people, they sit in front of the television, watch all those Saas Bahu serials, having all serials are having a divorce theme.
I mean, they are left solutionless. I mean, we are not
Children think that this divorce is an image of our society, that every house has a divorce and it is acceptable. So they
And
grow up with that.
what happens when the child who is not of the witness process, he knows the truth, he is growing with the truth, which, it is there in his mind that there was something injustice being done to either of the parent or both of the parent as a society. What happens when he comes to a situation where he or she faces domestic violence? Will they not lose faith into our judiciary, into our society, into our system, where he will be an advocate of a process that he has gone through, that this system doesn't work?
Doesn't work. There would be a total anarchy, people will stop believing in laws. See, what binds us, what governs us basically, how do we run a country? The country is run by all the set of rules and laws which the person who is obeying deems to understand that yes, unless I follow this particular rule, I will be punished. Now in a country where Ajmal Kasab is for such a long time being tolerated at the public expense, what kind of a news are we sending to the younger generation that if you murder anybody today, nothing will happen.
I understand. I mean, this is something which has not directly touched us. We all read in the newspaper. I am thinking of a scenario where there are a lot of families now, since the number of families are increasing into the disputes, and there are other family members who know the truth. The truth is obvious, known to the person themselves. I mean, the person who has done the crime knows what he has done. If it was not established in the court of law, but the truth remains in the society, will this truth not take a deformed shape? Will it not create a society where people now will start believing less into the system, and they might resort to other means of judiciary or system, where one of those will be rejection of the institution of marriage, which is happening quite, it's omnipresent everywhere. Everyone has started believing that marriages are something which are a risky affair, getting into a marriage. Then if there is an issue of something like a domestic violence, where the law is met with certain objectives which needs to be met, the issue is at the the least important aspect. But what are the objectives of the law? One has to match. The women has to come and match. If she is working, she might have to give up her job to suit to the law. So in that, the justice is completely ignored.
What is happening is, to satisfy her own ego, what a woman does is, I want to teach my husband a lesson. I quit my job. I don't want to work. The law says my husband has to earn for me and pay me. Though I am able, I can work, but she says, let my husband work, let him pay. Right? As I have already said. Now, what is the other option for the husband if the law is not helping him? What results are going to occur? Very simple. Many men are now, I am sorry to say this, trying to commit suicide.
I think we have some data on that. In last 7 years, more than 150,000 men have committed suicide because of domestic violence. They could not.
That I think is a number which is a little more than the number of soldiers who have died on our borders. So when people are not dying due to terrorism, but they are dying due to the act which is supposed to protect them, I think it is a high time that we change the law. I think it is a high time that the people who have legislated this Domestic Violence Act should open their eyes and ears and just listen to what the people are saying, what sufferings people are undergoing, and whether family as a whole is affected or not. There is no thought given to this process at all in making of this act, to my idea. So I think we can continue much on this on the next episode, and I am sure that all members and viewers of Living Unitedly International will support our cause. And we are here to create awareness about the laws. We are here to create awareness about the need of united family and how united family is the only way in which a country can progress. And I am very sure that after listening to us, all our viewers will definitely have some say, and you can simply log into our website and leave your suggestions on the guest discussions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. लिविंग यूनाइटेडली इंटरनेशनल में आपका स्वागत है। आज हम इस विषय पे बात करने वाले हैं जो रहीम जी का दोहा है। अमूल जी शायद आपने भी सुना होगा, रहीमन धागा प्रेम का मत तोड़ो चिपकाए, और तोड़े से फिर ना जुड़े, जुड़े गांठ पड़ जाए। ये हमारी भारतीय संस्कृति में ये एक ऐसी परंपरा चली आ रही है कि जहाँ पर जो संबंध, जो रिश्ते प्रेम से जुड़े हुए हैं, उनमें ये कहा गया है कि ये प्रेम का नाता है, इसे तोड़ो मत, इसे डिस्टर्ब मत करो, क्योंकि वो एक बार टूट गया तो जुड़ने के उसमें गांठ पड़ जाती है,
बहुत मुश्किल होती है।
तो आज जो हमारे समाज में जो चल रहा है शादियों को लेकर, कि जो शादियां टूट रही हैं, जो उसमें गांठ पड़ रही है, तो उनके क्या ऐसे प्रमुख कारण है? आप एडवोकेट है, आप बता सकते हैं कि आपको लॉ की कोई?
आज तो पहले हम ये चर्चा करेंगे भी आदमी शादी करता क्यों है, क्या जरूरत है उसको शादी करने की, शादी करने के कारण क्या है। देखिए, अपने हिंदू संस्कृति में और हर एक संस्कृति में, हर एक रिलीजन में महत्व इसको दिया गया है कि पीढ़ी दर पीढ़ी एक आपकी संतान औलाद पैदा हो और आगे प्रोक्रिएशन जिसको कहते हैं, आगे आपकी पीढ़ी वंश चलता रहे। तो वो एक कारण है। और दूसरा कारण है समाज का दबाव। आज एक व्यक्ति जो शादी नहीं करता उसको समाज अलग नजरिए से देखता है, चाहे वो पुरुष हो या स्त्री हो। एक स्त्री है तो उसको लाचार समझते हैं या उसको बच्चेलन समझते हैं। एक पुरुष हो तो उसको अलग नजरिए से देखते हैं कि शायद इसमें कुछ कमियां तो नहीं है।
सामाजिक प्रतिष्ठा पे चिन्ह लग जाता है,
वो तो है, उसके शारीरिक इस पर भी चिन्ह लगता है कि ये शादी क्यों नहीं कर रहा है। तो अभी इसमें सोचने वाली बात ये है कि शादी कितनी महत्व की चीज है। आज हर एक व्यक्ति भारत में कहीं ना कहीं शादी कर रहा है और शादी करके हर एक का एक एक्सपेक्टेशन ये है कि वे वो खुश रहे। और आपने कई फिल्म्स देखे होंगे, हिंदी फिल्म, जिसमें शादी के ऊपर कई लोगों ने मजाक किए हैं। आज वो मजाक समाज को भारी पड़ रहा है मेरे हिसाब से। उसके कई कारण है। प्रमुख कारण उसमें से एक है कि जो कानून हम सबके लिए बने हैं भारत में, जो कोई भी संविधान में ऐसा कानून नहीं हो सकता जो ये कहे कि भाई फैमिली डिस्टर्ब हो जाए, परिवार टूट जाए। लेकिन आज भारत में ये दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण बात है कि ऐसे लॉज आ गए, ऐसे कानून आ गए हैं जो फैमिली को टोटली नजरअंदाज कर देते हैं, साइड में कर देते हैं।
आज से 15-16 साल पहले मुझे याद है कि दूरदर्शन पे काफी प्रचलन था कि एडवर्टीजमेंट प्रमोशन चलते थे परिवार नियोजन के ऊपर।
हाँ,
आज परिस्थिति ऐसी आ रही है कि परिवार टूट रहे हैं, जो मतलब कहीं ऐसा नहीं लगता है कि सरकार की तरफ से एक अवेयरनेस कार्यक्रम चलना चाहिए ये टूटते हुए परिवारों को लेकर। हमने बहुत परिवार नियोजन किया, पॉपुलेशन कंट्रोल कर रहे हैं, लोगों को ये समझ में आ गया कि हम दो हमारे दो वाला हिसाब, लेकिन ये हम दो हमारे दो हमेशा साथ में रहे,
इसका कोई प्रयोजन ही नहीं।
इसके ऊपर भी अवेयरनेस
अवेयरनेस अभी क्या है कि गवर्नमेंट चाहती है कि कोर्ट भरे रहे, मुझे तो यही लग रहा है। आज भारत में अगर देखा जाए तो अगर सिविल साइड में फाइलिंग अगर देखे बंबई में एटलीस्ट, तो सिविल कोर्टों का फाइलिंग जो नॉर्मली प्रॉपर्टी केसेस होते हैं या इंजंक्शन केसेस होते हैं उनसे ज्यादा, कई ज्यादा तो ये फैमिली डिस्प्यूट्स के मैटर अभी फाइल हो रहे हैं। फैमिली कोर्ट अभी ओवरबर्डन हो चुका है, उसके अंदर इतना अभी प्रेशर आ गया है कि वहाँ के जो स्टाफ है, कर्मचारी, वो सारे बेचारे थक चुके हैं, जो मैं देख रहा हूँ। तो उनको समझ में नहीं आ रहा भाई ये बहता बहाव इसको रोके कैसे।
और हमारी सारी जो ऊर्जा है जो समाज के अंदर न्याय प्रक्रिया, न्याय प्रदान करने की, वो अब समाज का विघटन करने में लग गई है। तो उससे मतलब जो हमारी एक परंपरा चली आ रही थी, जो मैंने रहीम जी का दोहा बोला कि भाई ये एक धागा प्रेम का है, इसको अगर ये चिटक गया तो उसमें जो गांठ पड़ जाती है, जब दो परिवार आपस में एक बार कोर्ट पहुंच जाते हैं तो इसमें गांठ पड़ गई है। तो अब इसको हैंडल करने के लिए कोई ऐसा प्रावधान है कि काउंसलिंग सेंटर सरकार चलाने जा रही है, या
सरकार के पास कई काउंसलिंग सेंटर्स है, लेकिन वो काउंसलिंग सेंटर्स क्या करते हैं,
नाकाफी साबित हो रहे हैं समाज में।
गवर्नमेंट के काउंसलिंग सेंटर्स अगर होंगे तो वो इनडायरेक्टली पुलिस या कोर्ट से रिलेटेड है, बरोबर है। तो जो लड़की है वो जब वहां जाती है तो वो बदले की भावना से जाती है कि मैं मेरे हस्बैंड को अब छोड़ूंगी नहीं, मेरे शोहर ने मेरी बहुत तकलीफें दी है, ये है वो है, उसको प्रॉब्लम होता है। जो हस्बैंड जाता है वो डर डर के जाता है, उसको लगता है कि ये तो वही पुलिस का मामला है। हाँ, काउंसलिंग सेंटर है लेकिन पुलिस का है। तो अभी एनीथिंग विच इज रिलेटेड, जो भी गवर्नमेंट से जुड़ा है, वो हमेशा संशय के दायरे में रहेगा। और उससे अच्छा तो मुझे
आम आदमी डरता है,
आम आदमी डरेगा,
भय की भावना,
वो झिझक रहेगी। तो उससे उनको क्या जरूरत है कि आज गवर्नमेंट को प्राइवेट काउंसलिंग सेंटर्स ज्यादा होने चाहिए
जो न्यूट्रल हो।
यस। आज मानसिक रोगी भारतवर्ष में इतने ज्यादा बढ़ गए हैं। स्ट्रेस, टेंशन, एक तो देखिए ये लोगों का रहन सहन, पहनावा अभी पहले जैसा सिंपल नहीं रहा। उनको अच्छे होटल्स में जाना है, अच्छे
भौतिकवादी हो गए लोग।
यस यस यस, उनको अभी
Materialistic
मटेरियलिस्टिक हो गए, उनको सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं है। जो उनको समाधान होता था कम चीजों में, वो अब नहीं रहा। तो अभी क्या हो रहा है कि बिकॉज ऑफ ऑल दिस एक्सपेक्टेशंस और बढ़ती उम्मीदों की वजह से जो डिस्टरबेंस आ रहा है लोगों के लाइफ में, और वो सोचते हैं कि भाई अभी हम मैनेज करें या आगे हमारा जो लाइफ है वो हम हमारे तौर तरीकों से बिताएं, तो उसमें क्या होता है, एक कलह पैदा हो जाता है। आदमी सोचता है कि भाई मेरी वाइफ है, मेरी बीवी है, उसने मेरा घर संभालना चाहिए, बच्चों को संभालना चाहिए, और जैसे मेरी माँ अब तक करती आ रही है, जिसने मुझे पाला पोसा बड़ा किया, अब मेरे बीवी को भी मेरे बच्चों की तरफ ध्यान देना चाहिए। बीवी ये समझती है कि इनकी माँ अगर ये करती थी तो क्या जरूरत है मुझे भी वही करना, मैं क्या इसके लिए पढ़ी लिखी हूँ, क्या मैंने मेरी जो डिग्रियां ली है वो इसीलिए ली है कि मैं चूल्हा चौकी करते रहूं। और उससे क्या निर्माण होता है कि जो बच्चा पैदा होता है, जो तभी ये बहुत अच्छे अच्छे ख्वाब बुनते हैं, दोनों सोचते हैं कि हाँ बच्चा होगा, हम उसको स्कूल भेजेंगे, हम उसका हर एक चीज लाड प्यार सब झेलेंगे। लेकिन जब बच्चा होने के बाद जब पता चलता है कि हाँ अभी असली परिस्थिति ये है कि बीवी को जाना है काम पे, और जो पति है उसको चाहिए कि बीवी हमारे घर में रहे, माँ का ख्याल रखे, हो नहीं पा रहा है। तो उसमें होता ये है कि बच्चे जो है वो आखिरकार, या अगर माता पिता है उसके लड़के के, तो उसके माता पिता के ऊपर निर्भर हो जाते हैं, ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स पे। तो एक जो माता पिता है उन्होंने अपने कठिन समय में बच्चों को बड़ा किया, इन हार्ड टाइम्स उनको बड़ा किया, बड़ा करके सक्षम बनाया, उनकी शादी करके दी। शादी करने के बाद उनको ये लगता है कि हमारा उत्तरदायित्व तो पूरा हो गया, अब हम हमारी लाइफ हमारे तौर तरीके से व्यतीत करेंगे, कहीं हरिद्वार जाएंगे, कहीं घूमने जाएंगे। वो तो हो नहीं पाता बिकॉज इसकी जो बीवी है उसको बच्चे को संभालना नहीं है। तो बच्चे किसके साथ रहेंगे, माता पिता के साथ रहेंगे।
एक एडिशनल रिटायरमेंट बोनस मिल जाता है,
रिटायरमेंट बोनस, रिटायरमेंट हेडेक मिल जाता है उनको,
आप और काम करिए। तो ये तो उस वहां आ जाता है कि जहाँ परिवार जॉइंट फैमिली है, संगठन है, साथ में रह रहे हैं। कई परिवार आजकल का जो चलन है जहाँ हस्बैंड वाइफ, पति पत्नी दोनों काम करते हैं, और वो क्या, क्योंकि उनके पास समय नहीं है, वो अपने बच्चों को प्ले ग्रुप्स में डाल देते हैं या कहीं बेबी में डाल देते हैं, जिससे कि जो संस्कार हमें अपने माँ बाप से मिलते रहे, पूर्वजों को एक परंपरा चली आई, जिसमें हम ये जानते हैं कि भाई सास बहू में हमेशा टकराव की स्थिति थी। आज समाज का एक ऐसा जरिया, एक ऐसा बन गया है, प्लेटफॉर्म बन गया है कि जिसमें अब भले वो सास बहू में टकराव था, लेकिन उसके जरिए एक बहू को संस्कार मिलते थे, उस टकराव में भी संस्कार थे। उसके ऊपर एक हाल ही में जो एक कई वर्षों से एक सीरियल चल रही थी, क्योंकि सास भी कभी बहू थी, वो काफी लोगों में चर्चित रही, लोगों को पसंद भी आई। आज समाज का ढांचा ऐसा हो गया है।
लेकिन मैं आपको ये कहना चाह रहा हूँ कि सास भी कभी बहू थी सीरियल में जितने डिवोर्सेस बताए उतने शायद ही कोई सीरियल में बताए होंगे। तो एक ऐसा नहीं कि भाई ये सीरियल से सीखना है, लेकिन सिंपल बात ये है कि हमें अपेक्षा रहती है कि हमारे माँ ने हमको जो संस्कार दिए हैं, जो हमारे दादी दादा ने हमको संस्कार दिए हैं, वो हमारे बच्चों को मिले।
नहीं तो वही हम कहना चाहते हैं कि आज जो बच्चे प्ले ग्रुप और बेबी सिटिंग में जाते हैं, तो इनके संस्कार की जिम्मेदारी फिर क्या उनके ऊपर रह जाती है कि फिर हम कैसे उसको पा पाएंगे?
जिम्मेदारी दोनों को उठानी है, पति को पत्नी को दोनों को जिम्मेदारी उठानी है। जिम्मेदारी उठा के उनको जब शादी करते तो भी पता होना चाहिए कि भाई हमने शादी की है, कोई मजाक नहीं किया है। शादी किस चिड़िया का नाम है उनको पता नहीं है। तो जब वो शादी करते हैं तब उनको ये पता होना चाहिए कि व्हाट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ मैरिज। हमारी संस्था लिविंग यूनाइटेडली इंटरनेशनल इसी चीज को आप लोग के सामने पेश करना चाहती है, लोगों में अवेयरनेस लाना चाहती है, जन जागृति लाना चाहती है कि शादी क्या है। अगर आपको जरा भी आपके मन में संकोच या कोई प्रश्न है कि शादी क्या है, तो आप प्लीज शादी मत कीजिए।
और हमारी वेबसाइट www.livingunitedly.com पर विजिट करिए। वहाँ कुछ ऐसे मुद्दे हैं जो हम लोगों ने उसके ऊपर उठाए हुए हैं। आपका फीडबैक आपके जरिए से हम उसके अंदर इम्प्रोवाइज करते जा रहे हैं। हम ये चाहते हैं कि समाज में एक ऐसी लहर है जिसके अंदर आने वाली जो पीढ़ी है, आने वाली जनरेशन, हम ये नहीं कह रहे कि आज जो हो रहा है हम उसे बदल देंगे। हमारी गलतियों से, जैसे हमने अपने पूर्वजों की गलतियों से सीखा है, हमने उस पर इम्प्रोवाइज किया, उसी प्रकार हमारी गलतियों को हम डॉक्यूमेंट्रीज, जैसे हम ये कुछ वीडियोस बना रहे हैं, कुछ वेबसाइट्स बना रहे हैं, कुछ एक उसका एनालिसिस।
संस्कार कितने महत्वपूर्ण, में उसका सिंपल उदाहरण देता हूं। आज हम महाभारत रामायण क्यों देखते हैं? वो तो सदियों पहले हो चुका है, क्यों देखते हैं? उसमें सीखने जैसा है, संस्कार है सीखने जैसे, कुछ बातें हैं उसमें इतिहास में जो अपने को आगे अपने भविष्य को उज्जवल बना सकती है। मैं कई जगह पे देखता हूँ जहाँ दादा दादी पार्क होते हैं, वहां पे वो दादा दादी बैठ के वो जूने भजन कीर्तन गाना गाते हैं। अब मुझे लग रहा है कि हमारे पीढ़ी के आगे, अब मुझे ही वो सपोज भजन कीर्तन नहीं आते तो मैं मेरे बच्चों को क्या सिखाऊंगा?
वो तो
एक बार
विलुप्त होते जा रहे
हैं। तो क्या आगे जाके वो भजन कीर्तन इंग्लिश में गाएंगे? व्हाट वुड बी द पास्ट टाइम? आप और हम और हमारे बच्चे जब वो ओल्ड एज में जाएंगे, एक तो मेडिकल साइंस लॉन्ग लाइफ दे रहा है, वो ओल्ड एज में जाएंगे तो अपने पास्ट टाइम में करेंगे क्या? शुड दे इंडल्ज इन इमोरल थिंग्स? क्या उनको गलत चीजें करना चाहिए?
ये तो हमने देखा है कि पश्चिम सभ्यता में आज जैसे ओल्ड एज होम्स का कल्चर चल उठा है, ये इस सोच के भी डर लगता है कि हमें अपना बुढ़ापा
कभी
ओल्ड एज होम में बिताना पड़े। और ये ओल्ड एज होम कुछ आज मुंबई के आसपास भी मैं देख रहा हूँ कि एनजीओ काफी लोग बड़े एक्साइटेड हो जाते हैं कि भाई ओल्ड एज होम्स के लिए डोनेट कर रहा है। क्या ऐसा नहीं होगा जिस ओल्ड एज होम के लिए मैं डोनेट कर रहा हूँ कल को मुझे भी उसी की जरूरत पड़े? और वो इतने डिप्रेसिव होते हैं अमोल जी। मैंने हाल ही में एक ओल्ड एज होम मैंने विजिट किया था, ऐसा लग रहा था कि जैसे कि कोई चिड़ियाघर में आ गया हो और कुछ जानवरों को उन लोगों ने उसके अंदर बंद करके कैद करके रखा है
डिस्प्ले।
क्योंकि कुछ जो एक दादा दादी हैं, नाना नानी हैं, वो दादा दादी तब कहलाएंगे जब उनके पोते हैं उनके पास में होंगे, नाना नानी तब कहलाएंगे जब उनके नातू उनके पास में होंगे। उस उम्र में आके, उस पड़ाव पर आके जब वो अकेले वानप्रस्थ आश्रम में पहुंच जाते हैं, जो हमारे संस्कृति में बोला गया है वानप्रस्थ आश्रम में, लेकिन वो एक सभ्यता जो चली आई थी उसके अंदर जो एक संस्कार थे उससे प्रेरित होकर वानप्रस्थ जाना एक समझ में आता है। लेकिन आज जो हम जिस परिवेश में रह रहे हैं, पूरी जिंदगी मेहनत करने के बाद जब आदमी इंसान रिटायर होता है, पति पत्नी रिटायर होते हैं और उससे पता चलता है कि उसे ओल्ड एज होम में जाना जो पश्चिम में हुआ है, बहुत सारे ऐसे केस बहुत दर्दनाक है। और इससे यही होने वाला है कि जो सोर्स है हमारे संस्कार के, इन्हीं के पास टाइम था, दादा दादी के पास, नाना नानी के पास। हम जो है प्रोफेशनल्स हैं, हम काम कर रहे हैं, हमारे पास वक्त नहीं है, तो वो जो एक लेयर है समाज का वो हम काट रहे हैं। और उससे वो जो संस्कार की जो एक नदी थी, जो गंगोत्री है, वही जब गंगोत्री दूषित हो गई नहीं रहेगी तो गंगा बहेगी कहां से? तो इसी विषय को हम और आगे उठाएंगे, आगे इस पे और चर्चा करेंगे।
प्लीज हमें सुनते रहिए।
धन्यवाद।